Welcome back. On this episode, I'm chatting with Comeaux, who is the CEO of Crust Pizza Co. Carl is an absolute beast. He franchised multiple businesses, the first of which was a brand called Fix My Phone and then Main Squeeze, and now came in as the CEO of Crust Pizza Co. and has taken it to the absolute next level. They've opened up over 30 stores and I believe soon up to 50 in the next year or so. So Carl, thank you so much for joining. This is an absolute awesome episode for folks that are wanting to franchise their business, want to know what type of brand to franchise, and also if you're considering building technology in-house, some of the challenges and pros of going down that path. So I hope you enjoy. Carl, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. How about you, Daniel?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm very excited for this conversation. Last time we talked, we went a little bit off on some of our background. We connect in that we're both in our past lives, we're both personal trainers, and we kind of went down this entrepreneurial path and started businesses of our own. And now you are here, running this really cool concept. How many stores are you guys at the moment?
33 at the moment, and we're fixing to open up a couple more in June. So we're on the fast track to 40. We should hit that by the end of the year.
Let's go. Take us back. Yeah. I always like to have my guests talk a little bit about how they got to their seat currently, and then maybe we can also talk about some of the challenges along the way and talk about the growth ahead for Crust. So take us back to where you started. How did you get into the restaurant industry? What were some of your earliest positions there? And take it away.
Let me go down memory lane here. Let's take it all the way back 20 years, 22 years. So I ended up joining a gym with my dad at 11 years old. He asked me, he said, "Carl, do you want to join a gym or play baseball?" I said, "Let's join a gym." I was overweight as a child. So we started working out. And
me too.
Really? Or you too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And fast forward to 14 years old, I started working at the gym that I was working out at. And then I picked up an article about personal training and how you could help others with their fitness goals. So ended up saving a couple $100 and found a certification where you didn't have to be 18. I saved up money and went to New Orleans, got certified. And that was at 15. And then at 16, I was training 15, 20 clients, all business professionals or moms. And then from there, ended up going to college, thought I wanted to be a doctor, but then decided I want to focus on preventing disease, similar to the personal training space. And so ended up getting a master's degree in exercise phys. Absolutely hated college. The only reason why I went is because my parents brainwashed me that you have to go. But the entire time I was in college, I was learning and applying what I was doing with clients, which was pretty cool. To have that opportunity. And then after college, I was 20. I ended up getting 2 degrees in 4 years. So I did the fast track. I went to my advisor and I said, "Look, I want to max out my hours and I want to finish as soon as possible." And we did. 4 years, I had 2 degrees and then left there and went into owning my first personal training business. I was so busy. I was training 70 clients a week or 70 hours a week. I literally didn't have time to use the restroom or eat. It was that busy.
Yeah,
and
I know.
And I was like, well, like what's the next level? Cause I'm big into growth. Like that's one of my main human needs. I need growth. And so I felt maxed out and I thought, okay, maybe I could hire someone underneath me and train them what I do and then go from there. And so I did. I hired another personal trainer to help me. And I learned that I don't know anything about managing others and that I was a micromanager, and that was terrible. So I had to learn that whole process of how to manage people, which I'm big into. If you're weak into something, then go find someone that's strong in it and then learn everything they know and then apply it. And then you should get better results. And so that's what I did. I learned, cause again, I only had a degree in exercise phys. I didn't have a degree in business, but the good news is I had mentors that were business owners. And then also I read a lot of business books to get me up to speed to owning my own business. And then after a couple of years, I ended up having 7 personal trainers underneath me and we were absolutely cranking it. And so through that process, I ended up opening up a second studio. I moved to Houston, Texas, opened up another studio. And then from there, I connected with one of my buddies from college that had just retired from another job. He started a company similar to Groupon. I don't know if you remember that, the deal of the
I
day
do. Yeah, yeah,
business.
yeah. Yes,
Well,
yes, yes.
he did the same thing in the smaller markets, and he started a cell phone repair concept called Fix My Phone. And he said, man, he said, this is the future. I said, man, we don't have anything like that in Houston. So let's partner up and let's build this together. So we ended up opening up one in Houston. And then that was my first step into franchising, was Fix My Phone. So through that process, we started learning about franchising a business. We ended up getting a couple of franchisees, and then we ended up building it to 12 locations. Through that time that we started building it, we were looking for a CEO to help us scale Fix My Phone. At that time, my business partner, Nick, that I was partners with for Fix My Phone, came to me and said, hey, my sister ended up getting kicked out of her yoga studio. She needs a new place. Let's do a yoga studio for her. The reason why he came to me, one, I'm his business partner. Two, I have a background in fitness. I said, look, I have a background in fitness, but you don't understand, like, the yoga people are too much about the universe, not about making money. I'm not
Yeah,
interested.
exactly. Yeah.
And he's like, dude, he said, look, I'm telling you, we need to do it for her. I said, no, I'm not doing it. So a week later, he sends me a P&L for a juice business. It was ilovejuicebar.com. And they put their full P&L, which
On the
like 3
website?
months, yeah, on the website, which like 3 months later, they ended up taking it down. And I went to him, I said, this actually looks like a really cool concept. What we can do is we can do the juice business, juice and smoothie business in the front. There's nothing like this in Lake Charles, similar to like Fix My Phone. There was nobody doing that. Let's do it, and then it's gonna be a cross promotion with the yoga and the juice and smoothies. And he said, let's do it. So we ended up rolling that out. We Main Squeeze Juice Company is what was the creation of that P&L. And then in the back, we did Yoga Y'all, and it was beautiful. We ended up opening up. I thought we would do like 30,000 a month. We ended up doing 120 grand the first month. But before that, right before it opened up, the guy that we interviewed to come be the CEO for Fix My Phone, we brought him by Main Squeeze, and he tried and fell in love with it and said, I want to run this, not that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look,
Yeah.
we're just doing one. We're just doing one. We're not franchising this. He said, oh no, this is going to be franchisable. And then after we did 120 grand the first month, all our focus went to that. We ended up hiring that CEO for Main Squeeze instead of Fix My Phone.
What were you looking for? Why were you looking for a professional CEO? Why couldn't you have looked
Yeah.
at yourself or your partner to handle that
Well,
role?
so his background, the guy we were vetting for Fix My Phone, he led another cell phone repair business
I
from
see.
like 20, 30 stores to 120 and then sold out.
Got it.
So when he sold out, we saw it as an opportunity. And then of course that shifted to, this other business that we weren't even planning on franchising. It was just for his sister, right? It was just for Miranda. It wasn't for us. Of course, if we do anything, Nick and I, we do it right. We do. I mean, we're not going to just open up a mom and pop shop. Anything we open up, it's going to feel like it's a good experience. So from there, we ended up selling 50 stores in 18 months for Main Squeeze, and ended
It's
up going down
incredible.
that road. It was crazy, the growth that we had with the first 2 years of momentum. Then we ended up selling out of that business. But during that time that we were scaling Main Squeeze, I had moved to the Woodlands, which is where I discovered Crust Pizza as a customer, fell in
Mhm.
love with the concept, ended up meeting Mark and Clint as founders. And then we became friends. They wanted to scale, they didn't know how. So I helped them with that process. And then, fast forward a couple years when we're looking at selling Main Squeeze. So this is now 2018, because we started Main Squeeze, I think in 2015 or 2016. I can't remember now, but somewhere in that time frame. So we ended up selling out Main Squeeze, and I told the guys, I said, hey, look, Mark and Clint, I said, I'm going to be moving back to Louisiana. I would love to help you guys scale Crust. And they turned me down because they saw the demographics of Lake Charles and said, it's terrible. We would never go here. And then ended up 9 months later, whenever I get a call from Clint and I'm fixing to sign a lease for Rush Pizza, Nick and I created another pizza concept that we
Yeah.
were going to scale. just like we did for Main Squeeze, we could create anything. So
Right.
I told Nick, I said, I'm going to miss Crust Pizza and we need to create something that's similar and let's dominate it. And
Right.
so, Clint calls me 3 days before and he asked me what I'm doing and tell him I'm fixing to sign a lease for Rush Pizza. And he tells me he changed his mind after I spent 150 grand on research and development. And I'm like, oh, thank you for calling me. And then I ended up we getting with Nick, and Nick and I really thought hard about it. And I said, you know what? Crust is special. I love the name. The
Mhm.
name, you just can't beat the name. Kind of like on the
Yeah.
founders with McDonald's. Say, what's so
Yeah.
special? Is the name.
It's the name. Yeah.
It's the
Absolutely.
name,
The
man.
final scene, man. That's
Yes, it's
so
the
powerful.
name. And Crust is the name. And I'll be honest, we're paying for that name, Daniel. I mean, we
Yeah.
spent so much money on cease and desist and people wanting to. And here's the thing with trademark. Trademark, I mean, we'll spend 8 to 10 grand on a deal, and then they don't have to pay us any of that money back after they
Mm.
lose. It's just trademark is law is crazy. But anyway, getting back onto the story, we ended up getting the landlord to go try Crust. He fell in love with it. Gave us 8 weeks. And then we all became equal partners. I'm the CEO running the company. Nick is the technology officer. And then Mark and Clint, the founders. Mark is over the finance and legal. And then Clint is over construction. And then, of course, we have a team underneath us to help us do what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so, yeah, that's our story in a nutshell,
That's
man.
amazing. That's amazing. There's a lot of similarities between your story and my story. I don't want to go off on all the similarities, but I started working in a juice bar at a gym. That was kind of my precursor to starting my own fitness business, and
Wow.
it's incredible. Like I see a lot of similarities in myself and you, and that you are from the story you just said, you're someone that's very good at seeing the opportunities and then just like you said, being able to execute well. So
Yeah.
when you saw Crust Pizza, right? When you went in there, you fell in love with the name, you fell in love with the food. What did you see was missing in order to take this to scale?
It was too big. The menu was huge. It was 60 plus menu items. So I knew immediately we needed to change and condense that down. And the good news is after I analyzed all 4 locations that were open at the time, I realized that all the stores had the same top sellers in every category. So
Right.
then it was really easy to be able to condense the menu down to 35 items from 60 plus. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was probably the biggest thing we changed. Even pizza sizes, like they had 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 kid size. I mean, you talk about the pizza
Yeah.
boxes you need for that. Cause 50% of our business is takeout. And so we eliminated a lot of those boxes by going with the 2 most popular sizes, which is the 10-inch for a personal pizza and then our 14-inch, which is considered our family pizza.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the biggest thing that operationally that I tweaked
Mm.
and it paid off.
Yeah.
Like Charles opened up and within the first year became the number 1 store in all categories.
Was there any hesitation from the founder on making those changes?
Yeah, they definitely were skeptical about it because when you have 4 stores that are all successful with what they're currently doing, they were very skeptical about it. But then the way I convinced them was, hey, like Charles is 3 hours away from any of your stores, so it's gonna be fine. Let's try it out here, and it ended up working well. And guess what? Now their menus are 35 items, and they have like 3 items on their menu still that we don't have on the new menu because they just didn't want to take it off because some customers love it. But overall, their menu is real identical to ours now, the original stores.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's I think a good first step. What happened next? So when did you guys decide to begin franchising, and what are the steps that you go through to analyze the types of franchisees you're looking to attract to the business, and how do you get in front
Yeah.
of these people?
Yeah. So like Charles was the store that needed to open up and test the new model before we could franchise. So that was the step 1. Step 2 is let's get a good franchise attorney and let's make sure we write a really solid franchise disclosure documents. And then let's build a team because at the end of the day, as a franchisee, you're paying a royalty to us for what? You're paying a royalty for us to help support you in the development phase and then
Right.
the ongoing support phase, which includes
Right.
operations and marketing. And
Right.
so it's your team that you have to invest in in the early days, and that's your asset. That's your main asset, is your people, a strong group of people that could help support these franchisees. Because so many franchisors will go into this and they think, oh, we'll just keep us 4 guys, and then we'll open up all these stores and we'll support them as needed. It doesn't work out that
No.
way at
Right.
all. As far as who we're looking for, we've started with the dreamers, the burned out corporate employees that are making 100 to 200,000 a year, that are sick and tired of clocking in and out. They usually have a good size 401k. They usually have 200,000 of liquid, usually 500,000 net worth at least, and they want to sink those 60 hours a week into something that's going to give them a return versus somebody else a return. And so that comes with no restaurant experience at all. We train them on A to Z, and we actually rather it that way because they're green and they can learn our way, which is the best way, versus trying to reverse bad habits. And so that's worked out really good. All those dreamers turn into owner operators. They are the manager. So that's the first person. And usually they open up one, and then most of them are opening up their second, third location right now, which was the goal. But of course, as we get closer to 50 locations, we're definitely interested in the multi-unit franchisees. The ones we're interested in the most are the ones that, for example, let's say we're targeting Atlanta, Georgia. And we find a franchisee that owns 10 coffee shops and he's maxed out. He can't open up any more coffee shops in the area.
He doesn't have the territory.
Right. He's looking for another concept that he could do 10 more in his territories.
I see. So doesn't want to branch out. Doesn't want to branch out to another city or another state, but wants to stay, kind of dominate that territory, but add additional concepts to his portfolio, his or hers portfolio.
That's it. That's exactly that's the exact person we're looking for. And we found a couple multi-unit franchisees already, and it's been fantastic. I will say the pro with a multi-unit franchisee that's been there, done that, is they usually have their own business systems. They follow your playbook pretty closely. They trust the process a little bit more because they've been there, done that with another concept. And so it's a lot less training and coaching, to be honest with you, whenever you deal with those multi-unit franchisees. And then they'll take it and run with it. I mean, they'll go from 1 to 5 quickly without near the support that a dreamer, somebody that's coming in this from corporate America, will need. That requires a lot more time and effort.
Yeah, I'm sure.
On our side, going that route.
Right. I just had someone on recently who, when I asked that same question, they're in a little bit larger than you guys in terms of store count, but he said, we don't want people that don't come from restaurant experience because it's too risky. Usually they'll come in and bring an operator to run the thing and they're still working their full-time job. From what it seems like, you want that person to pour their entire heart into it and have that be their main job, their main, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Do you see though, like, it reminds me a lot of when I watched the movie The Founder, right? And how he convinced all these dreamers to join him on the battleship, and all those people turned into millionaires and got in at the early stage. Do you kind of see like those, like there's two different strategies about who do you attract early on? The dreamer versus someone that has some experience. And how do you kind of weigh the pros and the cons there? And ultimately, do you think that decision of going after the dreamer aligned closely to like who you are as a person?
Yeah, I think so. The dreamer avatar, let's say, they're usually really passionate. They usually have the skills needed, and they're hungry to do their own thing. And I love the opportunity that it gives them, because I've been self-employed since I was 16 years old. I was only employed. My only employer was the gym that I started training at. And I worked there for like maybe a year, and that was it. So from 16 to now I'm 38, fixing to be 39 in a few days. I've only been self-employed, and I love what self-employment brings to the table. And for so many people, they get stuck into that being an employee, and then they want to make the shift to entrepreneurship, but it's hard to do so. So for me to be able to help them make that transition and for them to have the same freedom down the road. Now, at first it's a grind. it's a lot of hard work, right? The first year, it's not pretty. I mean, you got to put in you got some limited beliefs to break through mentally. You have to learn the processes. You have to gain some traction, which takes a little while for the dreamer. But once they do, bro, they go from
Yeah.
crawling to running, and you see that light
Yeah.
bulb go off. And then to
Yeah.
be able to make more entrepreneurs through the process is very, very rewarding.
It's the same feeling with a personal client, a personal
Yep.
trainer client, right?
Same thing.
The
Same
first
thing.
couple of weeks, I tell them when I was a trainer, I was like, "Hey, you're gonna hate me for the first month or so because I'm gonna force you out of your limiting beliefs and I'm gonna push you like hell, and then
Yeah.
you're gonna come to me and you're gonna be extremely grateful. And my goal is for you to run on your own, right? It's for you to be
Yeah.
able to just take it and run with it and fire me one day. So I
Yes.
love that. I can see that for you, training these people is very similar to kind of training a personal client and helping them coach them along the way and give them the legs to be able to take the business, and grow and become financially successful. So
Yeah.
I really like that. Tell me
Yeah.
on the last point here before we wrap up. When I was doing some research on your team, you talked about how the team is super important. And I'm
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that every single person you brought on the franchisor side of things, you were very meticulous with. What do you think is your team's unfair advantage? What makes your side of the house like the best in the business?
Well, our tech. I mean, we have tech in house. Nick is brilliant. He's a genius. And when it comes to tech, we've built a couple point of sales already. We built the franchise development portal, and we did the same thing with Crust. We started with the development portal, and then now we're fixing to release the point of sale, which we went third party on the last few years with that. But we knew that eventually we would take that in house, and we did, and we are, and we're so excited that we're making that step because the flexibility it gives to our operators and the optics it's going to give them on a day-to-day basis to make better decisions, to make more money, is just priceless, man. And so the tech side, it's an unfair advantage that we have. A lot of
I've
people are
never heard.
scared.
I've never heard. I've never heard someone at your size build it in house, which is
Well,
takes a
and
lot of balls.
yeah, and that's just it, right? Like a lot of people are scared to do it. And then a lot of people that attempt it end up getting screwed by the programmers, or it's a terrible launch. And oh, the horror stories I've heard. And they all tell me, Carl, you're gonna have the same story. I'm like, no, we've been there, done that to multiple times, fixing my phone, main squeeze. Main squeeze is still running on all the softwares that Nick created. So it's you know what I'm saying?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
How
it's
much does that
cool. So
save
no.
you? How much does that save you in? It's maybe hard to put a number on it, but how much does that save you in terms of the bottom line?
The bottom line, I mean, well, we haven't implemented that system yet, but once we do, it should be a few 3 to 5 points
Yeah,
easy. Yeah,
yeah,
which is a big deal when
it
in
is a
the
big deal,
restaurant space, right? Because I mean, the
right?
standard is 15% is where you want to be in operating income, and so if you're at closer to 18 to 20%, or if you're average 20 and you're closer to 25%, everybody's going to sign up.
Amazing.
So yeah, no, it's
Well,
really good.
awesome. Well, let's wrap it up here. What is in store for Crust in the next year? If I talk to you in a year from now, what would you want to accomplish?
Yeah, in a year from now, we are doing our first annual retreat in March where we're bringing all the franchisees and managers in the same room. And it's going to be a time to entertain them, educate them, and empower them on the vision that we have and where we're going. We are implementing a new catering program that's going to be rolling out in the next couple months, which we're really excited about. In a year from now, we should have 42, 43 locations. So we'll be in the 40s, getting closer to that 50 number, which is where I'm
You want to
excited to
beat
get
it?
us. Yeah, I want to beat it sooner than later. And yeah, man, and then by then, all our tech will be 100% implemented and working, and stores are going to be even more profitable than they are now. And then at that time, hopefully, we have more multi-unit franchisees and more dreamers signing up, and then yeah, and then from
Amazing.
there, we'll see what happens.
Carl, wishing you all the best of luck. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us your wisdom and for me personally, just seeing a different side of what it takes to run a franchise or business. So this has been really, really cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Daniel, for having me.
You take care.
Okay, you too.